With Google Ads changing at an insane pace right now and AI being used to do more and more of the heavy lifting, we have to ask ourselves as Google advertisers, is keyword research now just a waste of time? I'm going to give you my thoughts on that question right now. Now, it feels very bizarre to even be asking the question, is keyword research even necessary today? Because I started advertising on Google back in 2009, and then it was incredibly important. Arguably the most important part of Google advertising was doing research into the keywords, working out the best performers, iterating based on the data you saw in your campaigns, because your keywords, the ones you targeted, completely determined who your ads were and weren't put in front of, which obviously had a huge impact on the results you generated from your Google ad campaigns. Now, the platform has evolved so much in the last 16 years, and keywords have become less important over time. They're still very, very important 5 years ago, and we've seen an acceleration of that process recently because Google's done more of the heavy lifting in terms of taking the keywords and taking our inputs when it comes to targeting as advertisers and going, right, we can run with it from here. We can work out who to put your ads in front of. If you give us more flexibility as a platform, we'll discover little pockets and people that might not have been included under a previous setup that you may well be getting conversions from. So it feels very bizarre to even be asking this question if we sort of run through sort of a few changes and then where we're at, and I'll get to where I think this is going and what we need to be doing as Google advertisers around this whole keyword research question. Now, we've had fully automated campaign types for a while, right? So we've had Performance Max, Demand Gen, both of which the targeting is very much up to Google. Now, those ads are put on places that's not just search, and keywords is typically thought of as a primarily search-based thing, which I suppose is true. And search is what most people think of when they think of Google Ads. It's search, it's keywords, it's ads that relate to those keywords, all that sort of thing. But we have had Performance Max for a number of years, had Demand Gen. We can have targeting inputs as advertisers, but they are suggestions, and Google can go, great, thanks for that, but we can completely ignore them. Our objective here is to get you the best results possible, is to get you as many conversions as possible, or to get you as large a conversion value as possible, depending on which of those smart bidding strategies you choose. And now with the very recent addition of AI Max, we can now run ads on the search network. So search ads where we don't put in any keywords as inputs. As part of AI Max, Google just works it all out for you. I'll have more information on AI Max later on in this video. But it does seem quite clear that the direction of travel here is less targeting inputs from Google advertisers. And that's what keywords are, by the way. They're targeting inputs. It's who I want to advertise to. I want to advertise to these people when they're searching for this, etc. It's a targeting input. So it's less targeting inputs and more of that being handled by Google as a platform. And honestly, Google is now mostly better at working out who to put ads in front of and when than we are as advertisers. And that's why advertisers will often see the best results through, say, a Performance Max campaign. And a lot of our clients are seeing their best results through a Performance Max campaign as opposed to other campaign types. So sort of given all that and sort of the foundations that I've laid there, you might think that what I'm about to say when it comes to keyword research, the answer is fairly obvious, but I really want to add in some nuance here because I think that's really important. Before I do, I want to quickly let you know about our done for you Google Ad service. So my company can create, manage, and optimize Google Ad campaigns for you. We can work out whether or not keyword research is necessary, do it if it is, handle all the other things involved in your Google Ad optimization process to try and get you the best results possible, keep up to date with all the settings. Like I said, the pace of change is absolutely insane. If you just want to hand it over to a company that's going to manage all that for you and help you get the best results, we can do that. There is a link in the description if you want to book in a free, no obligation call with one of my team members, and hopefully we get a chance to work together. So let's dig a little bit deeper into this question of, do we even need to bother with keyword research anymore? And to do that, I want to sort of break it down into some sub-questions, right? So the first sort of sub-question within that is, do we still use keywords? Because obviously keyword research isn't necessary if we're not actually entering any keywords ever. And the answer is yes. Like the majority of Google Ad campaigns are still going to use keywords, particularly obviously those that are very search focused. AI Max is still relatively new. It's going to take a while for advertisers to switch over. AI Max presents a number of problems for a lot of advertisers. If you work in an industry where you can't have the platform just completely automate who you target and automate all the ad creation, which is another big part of AI Max. Again, more information on that later on. You may not be able to use it if you're in an industry where there are any sort of regulations around your own marketing and advertising. Lots of industries fall into that. Then AI Max is going to be tricky. So the vast majority of advertisers are still using keywords if they're advertising on Google and using the search network in particular. And I think that's likely to continue for at least a few years, right? probably longer than that in some cases. So that's sort of the first question to answer. Are we still using keywords? Yes. Okay, so second sub question is, do we need to do keyword research to find those keywords that we input as Google advertisers? Now, the obvious answer might be yes. You're thinking, well, yeah, if we're still using keywords and giving Google keywords, and we need to do research to find the best ones, but it might not be quite as clear as that, and I'll explain why, right? If you're using keywords, you don't necessarily need to do research to find them because Google will help you out with that process, even if you as the advertiser are deciding which keywords to use. If you've been through the Google ad campaign creation process, you will enter in your URL, so where you want to send people, your website, landing page, etc. And Google will suggest a whole load of keywords based on the information that they see. And a lot of their suggestions are good. I'd say a lot of their suggestions aren't very good. So what I typically advise is that you as the advertiser be the filter. So you go, no, not that one, not that one, not that one. Yes, that one, that one, that one. And then you come up with a list that Google has helped you produce. You haven't had to do any keyword research to find, but is sort of filtered by you as the advertiser to make sense specifically for your products. You can also just give Google a handful of sort of broad match keywords that are related to your products and services and just let Google work it out. That's why, as the platform has evolved and Google's got smarter at putting ads in front of certain people and at certain times, they've been pushing us as advertisers to use broad match. And this is why, because they're saying, look, we might know that someone is searching for this that might not technically be closely related to the keyword that you've decided you want to target, but we're pretty sure as a platform that this person would be interested in your product or service based on the other searches that they've maybe done or their online activity or just how they phrase things. These are also data points Google can use to help get the conversion. So you could just enter in some broad match keywords and know that Google has a ton of flexibility to go out and find other searches that are sometimes closely related, sometimes not closely related to the products or services that you sell. Google can, in my opinion, go a little bit far with that. You can end up wasting money on searches that are just not relevant enough, but this is certainly an option. And a lot of people who run Google ad search campaigns never go near the keyword planner. They don't do any keyword research. They just use a combination of their URL, entering in a few search terms or keywords that sort of sound relevant to their products and services, and just let Google run with it. A lot of beginners do this. And that's not the worst strategy, honestly, if you are using a smart bidding strategy. I want to be really clear on that. If you're optimizing for, say, link clicks, terrible idea. But if you're optimizing for as many conversions as possible, so maximize conversions or maximize conversion value, so not just many conversions, but Google, please prioritize high value conversions, or you're using some of the new customer acquisition bidding strategy options. I've got a video on bidding strategy. You can check out my channel, a very recent one if you want to check out all the various options. You have to be using a smart bidding strategy for that to work, but you can do that. So you can absolutely still have keyword inputs as a Google advertiser, never do any keyword research, not go near the keyword planner. Right, and then we get to the third sub question, which is letting Google work out which keywords to target for you optimal? And I think most of the time, the answer to that question is no. So we've established that yes, we are still using keywords, we are still inputting keywords as advertisers. We've also established that you don't need to do any keyword research, don't need to go near the keyword planner. You can just let Google work it out for you. But is that the best approach? No, I don't think so. I think the majority of the time, a Google ad campaign that is put together with thorough keyword research, where you've had a look at the options, you've assessed not just which ones to target based on what sounds relevant, but looked at data like how costly is that keyword to target, what are the bid ranges, what's the competition levels, how much search volume is there, found some options that you may not have thought of otherwise during the keyword research process, all the stuff that we do and we talk about. Those campaigns will outperform ones where we just sort of input a URL and let Google work out the rest. Or maybe we'll sort of have selections ourselves as advertisers, will be the filter like I described. I think the one with the research is likely to perform better most of the time. And I think this is especially important for newer ad accounts. So Google's targeting-less campaign types, if you, I sort of made up a word there, but campaign options that don't require targeting inputs, don't require keyword inputs, don't require audience suggestions, depending on what type of campaign it is. They perform better in ad accounts that have a lot of conversion data. Google knows what type of person converts, who's interested, when they're interested, how many ad impressions they need to convert, what language they use when they're searching, all those various points. The more conversion data, the more purchases, the more leads generated in your ad account, the better Google's going to be able to do that, right? So with new ad accounts, I think our input as advertisers is especially important, but even with the more sort of seasoned ad accounts, still having some input on the keyword research side I think is likely to outperform just letting Google work it out for the majority of advertisers. So the big question then, should you still do keyword research? Well, I think the answer to that is most of the time, yes, especially in new ad accounts with less conversion data, but it's nowhere near as important as it used to be. And if I was making this video again in 2-3 years' time, there may literally be no point at all. I would not be surprised if that happens, right? So that sort of leads on to the next question around this of, is keyword research a skill you even really need to develop as a Google advertiser? Well, because I still think it would help your campaigns today, I do think it would be beneficial. Like, it would be better to have that skill than to not have it. But I wouldn't want new Google advertisers that don't really know how to do keyword research and haven't done much of it to spend a lot of time developing this skill. Because I just don't think it's going to be something that's going to be very valuable for a long time. There are other areas, other parts of Google Ads where you can make much more of a difference, much higher leverage activities, where you can gain an advantage over your competition. Keywords is becoming less and less of that because it's being automated by the platform. So all your competitors are sort of getting the same treatment when it comes to keywords. Whereas on the ad creative side, obviously depending on which campaign types you're using, that can make a huge difference. Working on offers and developing that as a skill, that can be a huge leverage point where you could crush your competition. Working out if there are creators and influencers to partner with, again, depending on the campaign type, can make a massive difference to Google ad performance. So there are other things where I think the juice is worth the squeeze more than in keyword research. So yeah, if you want to know how to do it and you sort of want to develop a base understanding of how Google Ads works really, and keywords are a fundamental part of that, I've got videos on keyword research. You can go ahead and check those out and go through them and learn how to do that. I think it would be beneficial and you might gain a competitive advantage. It might give you a 10% improvement though. It's not going to give you an 80% improvement or a 300% improvement, which is exactly what a much better offer could do. 10% could still be the difference between scaling and not scaling. So I don't want to say it's not necessary. We're still doing it a lot of the time as an agency working for client stuff. We will still look into these things and obviously depending on which campaign type we're running and seek to gain a competitive advantage there, but we're spending less and less time on it because we believe it's less and less important. And there are other things where we could gain more of a competitive advantage. And I think this logic applies not just to keyword research, but all other areas where AI is going to play a really big role. Like if we take it out of the sort of Google advertising, digital marketing space, think about learning to drive a car. Like I have 2 young sons, I very much doubt they will ever need to learn to drive a car. Probably all be self-driving, AI run by then, right? And there are all sorts of things like that where, okay, they'll never learn because they're so young, but you might be of an age where you're just about to start learning to drive a car and that's necessary and really valuable now, but it might only be a skill you use for 5 years and then you just never use it again. And there's going to be lots of things with that within the Google ad space, within the digital marketing space where you think, okay, it would be valuable for me to learn how to do this today, but is this just going to go away within a few years? Because if that just goes away within a few years, don't spend tons of time and effort developing that skill. Instead, focus on the things that are going to be much more lasting, like what I said. Establishing brand partnerships with creators and influencers. That's going to be super valuable going forward. It's very clear from the big platforms within the space, from Meta or Google, that they see that as a big part of the future because that's going to help cut through the AI noise. And that's something that people are going to have to do, at least for a long time, as opposed to AI being able to establish those relationships and get those partnerships going. A lot of the creative side of things, a lot of offer work. Offers is something where you are going to need to be good at that to differentiate yourself from your competition. Offers is such a high leverage way to gain a massive competitive advantage with your Google ads, particularly if you're advertising locally and isn't that much competition. So these are things that advertisers are going to need to do. The AI is not going to take over within a few years. And that is therefore where I would like Google advertisers, and I'm saying to my team and thinking about this myself, like let's focus more on this. Some of this other stuff is going to go away. So yes, we need to do it now. It'd be valuable to have that skill, but let's not put tons of time and effort into it because it's likely to be going away. Now in this video, I've talked a lot about AI Max, and this is one of the biggest Google Ads developments for many years. I've done a whole video on AI Max you can check out right here. If you're not familiar with how it works and the details, like you have to know this if you're running ads on Google or plan to run ads on Google. So if you haven't already, go ahead and check this out.